Flosstube, Emer here, and I am the Irish Stitcher. If you're new, welcome, come on in, take a seat, make a cup of tea, and if you're returning, also make a cup of tea, I guess. I will never tell anyone not to make a cup of tea. It has been eventful since my last video, that's for sure. To be honest, May was a bit crap. My granny unfortunately passed away. That's been quite difficult to come to terms with. Like we're a very close family, and everyone's taking it very hard. And then after the funeral, I came down with COVID. And despite being, fully vaxxed and boosted, that also hit me quite hard. Like I would walk from one side of the room to the other, and by the other side, I'd be there going. So I'm glad that's over. Glad that is gone. So yeah, May was a bit crap. June's been nicer so far. I have some couple of pieces to show you. I actually have a finish that might have been from late March, early April that I forgot to show in my last video, but you get to see it today. I didn't stick with my mania plans at all, and to be quite frank, I don't care. I'm giving myself permission to have not stuck with the plan and just done whatever felt good in May, because it was it was a month. I also talked about in my last video that I was going to a LARP, a live action roleplay game over in England, and I went and it was fantastic. I will cover some of the highlights. I'll be very brief, but I'll save that for the end of the video. And before I get into the stitching, happy Pride. It is the month of June. Lots of celebrations ongoing, and this is a safe place. So welcome all. So like I mentioned, I'm going to get started with a finish. This is Mill Hill Hedgehog. I think it might be from their spring collection of kits. I don't know. If you type in if you search for Mill Hill Hedgehog, you will find it. I like hedgehogs. I have a little shelf in the living room, and it's got various hedgehogs that I've been gifted. So this little guy joined his brethren. And I was stitching it, and prior to back stitching, I was looking at that going, that's not going to look like a hedgehog. And then it does. I'm really happy with it. I love looking at it on the shelf. I love the little beads. I think it's really cute and pretty. It sparks joy, as we do say. Next up is a whip you have seen plenty. It is Andromeda. Before I had planned to stitch her rock, as you can see, I moved on to her hair. Why I did this, partially I was getting a little bit bored of the rock, partially I was getting a little bit worried that my colours for her hair wouldn't look right. I think so far that it's turning out pretty good. It is mostly 310 and 3771 or 3371, whatever the very dark DMC brown is. And then I have a couple of lighter browns which haven't appeared all that much. I think there's only a couple of stitches of that colour in at the moment, but I think it's looking pretty good. I think it's dark enough. It's 310, obviously it's going to be dark, but it's dark enough that it, without making the rest of the piece feel drab, and it contrasts enough with her skin to not look like she's some sort of weird skin for hair monster. I don't know. Yeah, I'm trucking along with her, to be honest. I did a little bit. I did a couple of days of stitching on Andromeda. Next up, this is a whip that ye have seen before. This is Panorama Wave by Cross Stitch KSU. Their Etsy shop is closed at the moment. You might be able to buy things from a separate link. They have, if you look up Cross Stitch KSU on Instagram, there is another link to a shop front, and I think you can buy from there as normal. I'm not sure if the Etsy shop's going to come back. I've made pretty good progress on this. The bottom line here, that is where the stitching is going to end. The pattern does call for a border, like a white border all around the edge, and then a thicker border at the bottom to make it look like a Polaroid. I'm not going to stitch the white because it doesn't sound like fun. I'm going to do a back stitch around the little square of stitching, and then I'm going to backstitch in the shape of a Polaroid, and that'll be good enough. This was only ever meant to be like a little easy, mindless piece, and it's been quite nice. I've made a lot of progress. I think last time you would have saw it, I had the blue sky and the lightest clouds. I've stitched more clouds. I've stitched the white kind of froth on the waves. I've stitched most of the main blue of the waves, and it's one color down in the waves and then the moon and the stars. But that's very little stitching. This potentially could be finished by the next time you see it, as long as it doesn't fall into that like black hole of whips where they never come out again. I think that's all for my whips that you have already seen. I have had 2 starts. I didn't intend to start much in May. One of them I just wanted a new start. I was traveling home. My granny was in hospital for a while, and I got a week at home where she was obviously still in hospital, so sick, but mentally she was great. So I got to spend a week basically visiting her in the evenings, and which I think I'm really fortunate to have those positive family memories. But while going, I just wanted a new start to keep myself occupied. I was able to work from home in my parents' house, just for travel in the evenings and stuff. I wanted a new start. So I started Lakapati by Bella Filipina. And this is, sorry, I got a new ring light and it's been great so far, except for this, it's reflecting. But she is just beautiful. Deity of fertility, and she gave agriculture to mankind. Beautiful. I fell in love with her when I saw the golds in her dress, the golds and the yellows. Like, that's my favourite colour. And I just knew that stitching her would spark so much joy. The fabric is Bright Forest by XG Designs. You can see I actually made a really decent amount of progress. Like, that is the front of her dress, and this is where the red will start to curve in. Obviously I still have a lot more to go, but that is a not insignificant amount of progress, which I'm really pleased about. Oh, that reminds me. These hoops, they are from Hobby Jobby. I saw someone else, can't remember who for the life of me, but I saw someone else on YouTube recommending them, and I love them. Like, this isn't sponsored or affiliated or anything, it's just me saying that I like them. They're great. I got a 4-pack. I got the multicolor. They are phenomenal. I love them. I love how light they are. They feel so nice to hold and work on. Like, they hold the fabric really nicely. It's great, and it's a great size. This is as big as my Q Snap, and actually, you can is slightly bigger, or there's like just slightly more working space. It might, what I think it is this is the width of my Q Snap, including like the outside of the poles on the Q Snap. So there's like an inch either side of a Q Snap where you can't stitch, whereas this is like, there's still a little bit of the frame where you can't stitch, but it's a lot less bulky than a Q Snap. I love it. So that is a start. I've been enjoying it. I didn't have all of the calls for DMC, but I had all of the yellows, so I was like, oh, that's great. That's convenient. So I packed up the yellows, and I actually bought the rest of the floss for Lakapati, as well as the floss for Spring Maiden in Maidens of the Seasons. It probably would have been last video where I expressed that I had hoped to stitch all of the frame, and then once I got doing that, realised that that's really tedious. Like, that's a lot of stitching. That's a lot of brown lines to stitch. So a couple of people agreed with me in the comments, like, look, start in the lady and split your time between the frame and the lady. So I picked up the floss for Spring. It's great. I would show you it, but I haven't made any progress, and it's just a bunch of brown boxes at the moment. Hopefully I have something more impressive to show you next time, like a face. That would be great. My final new start, I packed this one when going to England with the notion that if I wanted to, and like I needed some downtime in the field, whatever, I could just like find a group of people to chill with and stitch. And why I didn't take the little wave was because that I have it on Pattern Keeper, and I just decided that I didn't want to print it off. So I started Hands-on Designs Blissfully Unaware. And it reads, if you are reading this, then you are blissfully unaware of what is creeping up behind you. It's just fun. It's creepy and fun. I have started this on, I think it is Black Dahlia by Sparkly's fabric. So it's a bit darker than what is called for. I had a brighter piece, but it wasn't big enough. And I have then, because of that, changed out instead of black DMC, I am doing like a grey DMC, and I don't know how it's going to show up in camera, especially if there's nothing behind it. But in person, I'm quite happy with the visibility of those letters. So that's great. Part of me feels like I haven't done much stitching this month, and I haven't done as much as I would normally like to with COVID. COVID wiped me. There were a couple of days where I had to take off work, and it wasn't even the fun, like, you know, the fun kind of sick where you like, oh, I'm going to lie in bed and watch TV and like eat ice lollies. This was like, I am sitting in an armchair staring at a wall because like reading was too difficult, watching TV was too difficult, listening to audiobooks were too difficult, stitching, like that was out of the question that I could stitch. I think for 3 days straight, I just sat there and coughed. Basically, I slept and I coughed and felt sorry for myself. That was it. It was a bit sad, but happens. Hopefully I never catch it again. Wouldn't wish it on anyone. And I'm like young with no underlying health conditions, so not a good time. What was a good time? And if you're only here for the stitching, I think I'm pretty much done chatting about stitching. My plans for the month are really just to keep going on my current whips, what you saw today, get it started in Spring Maiden for Maidens of the Seasons. So yeah. If that's all you were here for, I'm going to talk about LARP briefly. I had a blast. There were 5 of us went over, myself, my partner, and 3 other friends, and we all played like a family. I had two brothers and 2 cousins. It was fantastic. Everyone was so welcoming. Like we mentioned, oh, we're new, and everyone's willing to explain stuff to us, welcoming us in, like, you know, have a seat. There were like, you know, sing-alongs, there was some combat, which was also really fun. Lots of little like tea houses, and they took the in-character money, so you didn't even have to spend real money on tea and cake and alcohol as well. Everyone was, that's really, it struck me just how happy everyone was to, it was real like, you know, doors open, come on in kind of thing. I loved it. The highlight for me was probably the singing. It was so much fun, and my like in story faction is very big on like call and response songs and like audience participation. So all of the songs were written with that in mind, or picked with that in mind, that, you know, even if you've never heard the song before, it's really easy to join in on the chorus or to get involved in some way. It was a blast. The Saturday night we went out on the stealth mission to rescue someone. So we're like hiding in a bush at 10 p.m. watching like these lanterns float past as like people are looking for us. We're like trying not to make a noise. It was tense. Like I felt a little bit like a child again in the best possible way. And this, like, I don't know. It was so much fun. Definitely we'll be going back. Another event at the end of July. I have some pictures. There was an event photographer there, and I got a really there were 2 pictures of me. One, I mean, like, I'll pop them in the video. They were definitely candid shots, if you couldn't tell by looking at them, but they make me happy. I had absolute blast. And we have a couple of more friends who are looking to come with us as well. So our little family is growing. It's great. Can't wait. It feels so good. And I didn't get sunburnt. Like, you can see how pale I am. Like, I burn so easily. But our costumes, we like had headscarves, like we had long sleeves. All our garments were very like breezy and flowy, and we didn't get sunburned because we were shaded, and everybody else red as tomatoes after the event. There was a lot of hay fever as well. I don't even normally get hay fever, and I was so bunged up. Not fun. But if my biggest complaint from that event is, oh, I got hay fever, it's clearly a good event, I think. So yeah, thanks for listening. Let me know, as always, I'd love to hear what you're stitching, what you're working on, what are your plans for next month. Thanks for watching. Bye.